A new Arkham, a new beginning was going to be built on the remnants of the old Amadeus Arkham. Amadeus imagined a better Gotham. He wanted to clean up the scum in the city, but he made a crucial mistake before taking on that responsibility. He forgot to clean up his own mind, subdue the demons of his past, and atone for murdering his family. Eventually, it got to him, turning him into a patient in his asylum. His gradual descent into madness was to be an example for his nephew, Jeremiah Arkham, not to make the same mistakes, who was now going to take up the torch of running Arkham Asylum for the criminally insane. The Children of Arkham, Issue 1. Jeremiah Arkham is a man of science. He believes human actions are the result of previous actions. If you can condition one's behavior as a consequence, the mind will obey. It's the principle of reinforcement proved by B.F. Skinner, an inspiration for Jeremiah. He'll not make the same mistakes as his uncle. He's set to rebuild the asylum better. With better treatments, better security. When the inmates return, it'll be nothing like the old Arkham they left. No more darkly lit corridors and cells with agony and torment carved into their souls. He was breaking it all down with a better plan in mind. Jeremiah was rebuilding the asylum in the image of the classic labyrinth. Hiram Contractors was given the deal for reconstruction. Jeremiah buried it all. The past, his uncle, and the transcript of his uncle's descent into madness. All unnecessary items, even the journals, were to be burned. People are only what they do, not what they think. It's best to get rid of it all and start anew. If it were up to Mr. Hiram, he would keep or sell a few of the antiques found in Amadeus's belongings. He's a man of logic, measured. But Arkham can see beyond the material. He can see into someone's soul and measure the lunacy that conspires in them. In his Sweet 16, when teenagers are busy scoring one kiss with a girl, Jeremiah scored the moment of his life that would change his future. A brilliant mind was wasting away until that fateful night he entered the dime store and saw a maniac holding people at gunpoint. He pointed his shotgun at Jeremiah the second he stepped in. He froze at first, startled by the sudden hostage situation, but then it happened. He could see into the madman's eyes. Far beyond the blood-crazed criminal, past the madness, his hard shell slowly cracking and his painful life seeping through. The words just came to Arkham. "You don't need to kill me. Your father is already dead." He watched unsurprised as the man cried with relief, thanked him, and turned the gun on himself. Jeremiah was still unmoved as the man took his own life. Later, it was revealed that the man was an escapee from the Arkham Asylum. That day, Jeremiah's life took a turn. He found purpose. He was born to be a savior. The new asylum is at work, an impenetrable fortress. First patient on his list, Cornelius Stirk. His crime, multiple homicides. Too much light hurts the poor man, but a diet of human hearts pacifies him. He screams in agony when Dr. Arkham enters his room, flooding it with light. He begs for darkness, but the doctor reminds him that he's a prisoner here after all. He can't give instructions, he needs to take them. The first would be a course of tranquilizers with some more drugs. If he's ever to join society again, he needs to be cured of his cannibalistic instincts first, and that is Dr. Arkham's goal. Second patient, Everard Mallet. His crime, violent schizophrenic. Currently, with wires attached to his head, he dreams of a man, a hero, who comes to save him from very bad girls. His hero only asks him to share his vast fortune, and then he'll set Mallet free. But all his wealth has been usurped by cattlemen and usurpers. His hero left without saying another word after hearing about Mallet's situation. Jeremiah Arkham has an easy solution to Mallet's disturbing dreams. He'll simply wake the man up whenever he starts to dream. Third patient, the Scarecrow, aka Professor Jonathan Crane. His crime, self-styled master of fear and a sadistic maniac. Crane was subjected to sick and harrowing experiments as a child, and when he grew up, he turned his torture and fear into a deadly weapon. Now he wields fear like a sword and revels in terror and dread. Arkham storing him in a glass cage, shielding the world from his mind. Crane considers the treatment inhuman, but Arkham knows it's the best way, and Joe Goldberg would agree with him. The Scarecrow tries to reason with him, but his mind is tricky. He doesn't want to commit crimes, but his mind confuses him and makes him do things. Arkham is indifferent to his pleas. He knows the mind. He understands it. It's a complex thing, confined in our skull, yet beyond reach. He asks Crane, a sinister concept mind. Can you smell it, taste it, touch it? Can you do anything with it, except perhaps change it? No one knows what makes the so-called mind tick. Crane's twisted mind dominates him. The voices tell him what to do, but what he actually does in the material world is all that matters to Arkham. So he's come up with a special treatment for the Scarecrow. If birds are the root of his problem, some hollow projection might do him good. Once he learns to embrace the crows, he'll overcome that voice too. The Scarecrow shudders in fear when an eagle projection charges toward reward him. Fourth patient, Victor Zsasz. His crime, a serial killer, 47 known victims. A clever man, Zsasz. Too dangerous for society and too calm and collected to be subdued psychologically. The man carves himself for every life he takes. He joins in on the pain. Everything he does, just to feel alive, even if that is momentary. Arkham keeps him in a confined cylindrical container with a small rectangular hole for him to breathe and make conversation. They discuss Descartes. I think, therefore I am. A scholarly exchange of words between a criminal and a psychologist. Our existence is a product of our minds, and our lives are a product of our thoughts. But these two think otherwise. Our thoughts are mere byproducts of our behavior. Behavior matters. Dreaming of killing a man will not do the job. Sadly for Zsasz, all he can do now in his immobilized state is just dream of a good kill. Arkham cannot let him out, especially after what happened to the last orderly. Zsasz left the man handicapped, never to walk again. He suggests Arkham should have let him finish the job and reduce the weight of the world. Zsasz is a real challenge, still kept far away from the real dangerous one. Fifth patient, Batman. His crime, murder. He's chained up to a wall. Arkham greets him this morning. Extremely hostile behavior. If the chains got loose, he'd pounce at Arkham without a second thought. He urges Arkham that there's been a mistake. He doesn't belong in this facility, but every inmate has the same plea. It's no different. Although Batman's actions could have been justified as long as he was serving vigilante justice, but murder took things too far. You either die a hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. Arkham suggests some mild sedatives. Batman isn't one to stay quiet and obey. He launches his legs at the orderlies and breaks himself free. The guards bring in the water hose and fire at him. They charge at him all at once, leaving a bloody and bruised Batman on the floor. Arkham knows that with time all his masks will come off. He'll cure this man, and that day Batman himself will reveal his identity to Arkham. From that day on, the Bat will cease to exist. Somewhere in Gotham, three gangsters are harassing a man. Robin appears from behind them, brandishing a metal beam with a fierce grip. He gives them a single warning to leave the man alone. But of course, these guys underestimate Robin. He still has the physique of a kid. They come at him with pipes and knives, but not with Robin's agility. With each powerful strike, he leaves the three hoodlums reeling on the ground. Just then appears another man, Nightwing, aka Dick Grayson, a favor from the new Robin to the old one. He captured them for Nightwing. Dick thanks him. Robin will collect this favor someday, just as he's about to leave. Dick stops him, wondering if there's anything he can do to help this situation with Batman. Who is the Ripper? Issue 2. Who is he now? Batman? Bruce Wayne? Or is it just another criminal in a cell? Alone with his thoughts in a confined space, the fury that drives him to be a guardian in the shadows is now slowly engulfing him. It's burning him to a point of no return, where there is no emotion, no feelings, no Gotham, just emptiness, nothingness. It all started that night with a little girl in a graveyard. She was playing with dolls. Correction, she was punishing her dolls, straightening them out for disobeying her. She screamed at them and taught them a lesson by burying them. That's when he appeared, frightening her. There was nothing to be afraid of. He only wanted to take the child home. It was quite late, and her parents must be worried. Little did Batman know that the girl was out late to stay away from her father, but the bruise on her face confirmed it. She was projecting her pain onto her toys. Her father beats her up, and she beats up her dolls. He cusses at her, and she cusses at her dolls. A sick, vicious cycle. Batman took her home and comforted her, saying that no one would hurt her as long as he was around. When they entered her home, everything seemed normal. The TV was on, and its flickering lights were the only source of illumination. Batman, holding the little girl in his arms, switched on the main light, and to his horror, he found the girl's family in the room. The issue was that they were all dead. He immediately switched off the light and asked the kid to wait outside. These bodies were arranged in a family setting, throats slit professionally, and it matched the MO of a well-known serial killer. A killer who was supposed to be imprisoned. Just then, Batman heard a sound. A tramp ran out, but not before Batman got a hold of him and knocked him out. Earlier that night, there was a knock on the Spengler's door. The missus went to get it. The young boy and his lousy father were in the living room watching TV when they heard the scream. The man was justifiably annoyed. Too much noise while he drank his beer and watched his show. He shouted back. It was in her best interest to stop all the screaming rather than face his wrath. But then came the real terror, wearing a top hat that would rip his family apart. He sliced up the father and son nicely and exhibited the three in the living room for their younger daughter to find later. When the police arrived, Commissioner Gordon ordered his people to take the bum, who tried to run out, into custody for questioning and to take care of the little girl. Forensics were going to examine the body, but Batman had already drawn his conclusion. He'd profiled the killer. It could only be Victor Zsasz. Only he enjoys playing house like that, leading his victims and then arranging them in a docile domestic fashion. They still couldn't be 100% sure until they checked out Arkham Asylum. Gordon left the scene of the crime with Batman in his Batmobile. Neither of them had visited the newly built asylum yet, or had met Jeremiah Arkham. Gordon shares that there's a low probability of breaking out of Arkham with the new security regime. It's quite tight. A plan is already afoot in Batman's head. Jeremiah is, fortunately, Unfortunately, a late worker. He welcomed his guests, Commissioner Gordon and Batman. Gordon immediately inquired about Victor Zsasz. He told him about the whole incident that had transpired earlier that night. Their main suspect is Zsasz. Jeremiah laughed at their theory. His prisoner escaped Arkham? Preposterous. He wasn't just thorough while installing the new security, he'd made sure that it was formidable. The best technology available on the market. Heat detectors on all exterior windows, microwave motion detectors outside the punishment cells, magnetic foils in the walls to block radio waves, 2 guards on the secure wing to avoid any cases of bribery. Even Arkham can't get past the door without his ID. The asylum is a fortress. He called a man, Maxi, to escort them to the security wing. This man was dressed like a Greek god, Zeus to be precise. Gordon was astonished. Maxi Zeus being so compliant. Arkham illustrated his ongoing aversion therapy for him. It's proven to be quite productive. Reward and punishment. Change a man's behavior, his mind will soon follow. He showed them around. Security cameras everywhere. All is recorded and stored. He sent Maxi running back to his room and took his guests to Zsasz's cell. The door to his cell can only be operated from the outside, so there was absolutely no chance of Victor escaping. The man stays totally immobilized during the day. Only at night is he given the privileges of a bed and a cell to move around. Arkham opened the door to the cell. Inside lay a man curled up under a blanket on a single bed. He was woken up by the voices. It was a bittersweet moment when he saw Batman, his captor. Zsasz asked the Bat if the city of Gotham was sleeping any better since his arrest. Perhaps that's all they were doing. At least while he was on the loose, the citizens of the damn cold city had something to look forward to, even if it was their impending death. Such a bore, the human species. Robot mums and zombie dads, day in and day out, stuck in a never-ending cycle. Wake up, eat, work, sleep, reproduce, and die. There's a certain amount of comfort in death. Makes you feel more alive. Victor would make good friends with Vecna. Batman was tired of his shenanigans. The new killer on the streets could be a copycat, but he needed to be sure. He knew Zsasz kept scores of his kills. He used the same knife to scar his body with which he claimed his victims. Batman demanded to see his skin. Zsasz was flattered. A killer copying his modus operandi. While he was stuck in a metal casket, the myth of the murderer magician was becoming an urban legend. To put the commissioner's and Batman's minds at rest, he exposed his whole body, but there was no new mark visible on his skin. It left the Bat in a dilemma. He was quite sure of the killer. The commissioner, on the other hand, was relieved. He exclaimed, "Thank God," to which Zsasz had a condemning reply. "There is no God, Commissioner. Hasn't Batman ever told you that? God would never allow these awful things to happen, would he, Batman?" He managed to freak out Gordon with his peculiar behavior. He was glad someone was carrying out his good work while he was occupied. But Batman only got more furious and more determined to catch the killer. Something clicked in Batman's head when Zsasz was speaking about the lifelessness of the city and mentioned the innocent babe. It was almost like he was teasing Batman with his suggestive words. He needed to nail Zsasz in the act. They left Victor Zsasz's cell, and just then, Zsasz looked at the medial side of his right foot. There it was, the 3 freshly carved scars. It was getting on his nerves. Batman didn't want to wait around anymore. Every time he takes care of a criminal, a new one emerges from the shadows. He and Gordon got in his Batmobile, and almost immediately there was a call for Gordon on the radio. Another murder, a double homicide. They rushed to the crime scene. The same M.O. Lieutenant Kitch was waiting for them. 2 students had been killed. This was only 3 blocks away from the previous incident. The officer on guard stopped Batman from entering the crime scene. Just the thing he needed to rile him up even more. He punched his way in, leaving the officer dumbfounded. Gordon left Kitch in charge. Best to clear it up with everyone about how things go around when Batman's involved. There was no doubt. Throats slit, bodies arranged as if having coffee over a hearty chat. It was exactly how Zsasz does it. But they'd just seen him at Arkham. None of this made any sense. Batman examined the bodies. They were stiff and cold. This murder had been committed before the last one, probably several hours before. They needed to get to the bottom of this. Batman was about to leave when he heard the lieutenant and the other officers joking about the little girl's family. The kid comes home to find the family watching TV, all dead. Wonder what channel they were watching. It made his blood boil. That was the last push he needed to go over the edge. Batman couldn't hold it in any longer. He charged at Lieutenant Kitch, knocking him over. Kitch tried to pull out his gun on Batman, but he'd already overpowered Kitch. Gordon jumped in to stop the fight. He smacked Batman with the back of the gun, but it was too late. Lieutenant Kitch was dead. Batman had taken a life. The one thing he swore never to do. He had to be detained. There was only one place that could hold the Bat, the Arkham Asylum for the criminally insane. Gordon contacted them and took Batman back to the asylum. He's been in captivity for hours, all alone, just listening to every footstep, every voice that passes by. 2 security guards make their rounds every 15 minutes, give or take 30 seconds. Batman knows that if he wants to get out, he has to be swift and nimble. Only a madman would take such a risk, and he was no stranger to mad recklessness. He takes the lockpick out of his mouth and releases himself from the chains. Outside of Arkham, in Gotham, Nightwing and Robin are having a rendezvous late in the night. They're appalled and confused. Batman killed a man? That's next to impossible. unbelievable. He may have played catch and release with the Edge before, but he's never gone over. Robin was informed of the situation the previous night. Gordon lit up the bat signal to call upon him and told him everything. Nightwing found out from an informant whose sister works at Arkham. Nightwing refuses to believe that Batman committed murder. Bruce has issues for sure. To any ordinary guy, it may seem like Batman is nuts because of how audaciously he courts danger, but Dick knows better. He spent more time with him than most people. Reckless he may seem, but every step, every decision is measured and premeditated. Robin has instructions from Gordon to not do anything stupid and to stay out of it, as it'd only exacerbate the circumstances, but not Nightwing. He has to figure out what's wrong, and the only way to do so is to get to the root of the problem. He has to break into Arkham. Fight Club Interrupted. Issue 3. The murderer magician walks the streets of Gotham at night wearing his top hat. He comes across a payphone, and he needs to use it. It's occupied by a cheating husband trying to convince his wife that he's late because of work. Mr. Patrick Glemp has incriminating evidence smeared across his cheek, the lipstick mark he can't deny. The man in the top hat lightly knocks on the door. Glemp turns around to chase away the weirdo bothering him, but before he has a chance to react, a knife is plunged into his throat. The man takes Glemp's lifeless body and places him on a bench on the side of the road with a newspaper in hand. Joggers will find him early in the morning reading the previous day's news right before he's about to become the next day's news. It's almost comical. Zsasz places another cut on his forearm for another kill. He goes inside the telephone booth and dials Hiram's residence. It's eminent that he speaks to Mr. Hiram, but his wife picks up. She snaps, her voice dripping with annoyance. Who's bothering her so late at night? She tells the man that her husband isn't home. Just when she's about to cut the call, Zsasz urges her to reach out to her husband. It's an urgent predicament, and her husband's life could be on the line. He informs her of his current whereabouts, the Plug Lucky Casino, gambling again. Mr. Hiram is not as cunning and sly as he likes to think of himself. One requires a sharp mind to win at poker, and a deluded mind to lose, yet come back to lose over and over. The chaperone at the casino tried to respectfully warn Hiram of his debt to the house, and that it's in his best interest to leave now and not come back before he figures out how to pay his debt. But Hiram is an animal of habit, still jonesing for another round, another hand, another chance. He's thrown out of the establishment, rightfully. Wandering the streets, he runs into the murderer magician. The man hates guns. They're too loud, too disconnected. And then there's that stench of cordite. A knife is his weapon of choice. They're slender and sharp, beautiful and fierce, and one clean stroke does the job. It's more personal and more natural. But whenever he's holding one in his hand, it takes over his mind and soul. Zsasz can't trust himself with a knife. It has to be a gun. He corners Hiram in a dark alley at gunpoint to ask for a favor. If he scratches Zsasz's back, he'll return the favor. Within a couple of hours, the police arrive. They suspect suicide. Solly Hiram is on the ground with a gun and a note in hand. There's a bullet wound in his head. The note reads, "Emily, I can't go on any longer. I owe too much. I can never pay it back. Sorry it has to end this way. Goodbye, Zolly." Solly Hiram of Hiram Contractors is dead and nobody suspects foul play. Commissioner Gordon inquires his squad about the murder victim found earlier, Glemp. Again, the same method as Zsasz's. But all this only befuddles the situation even more. What does it mean for Batman? Does his theory hold any weight? Or are they just wasting time and should look for the copycat killer instead? Nightwing swings on his nightline and lands on Arkham's roof. He sneaks past the guards and finds his way in through an air vent. He discreetly crawls through the vents. He peeks through one of the openings, the direction to the secure wing. Of course, they'd be holding Batman there. Where else would they hold him, he thinks. He wriggles his way toward the secure wing, and just then, there's a sound up front. Nightwing and Batman bump into each other inside the air vent. Of course, the crafty chap has managed to break himself free. Nightwing should have seen it coming. A meet cute of two old friends. Nightwing remarks with a smirk, "We can't go on meeting like this." Mild irritation creeps onto Batman's face as Nightwing, still wearing a cheeky smile, points out that he couldn't leave Batman alone after hearing about everything. Batman didn't want anyone else to get involved. He strictly instructed Gordon to be discreet. Nightwing found his way around it anyway. Now he too is involved in this drama, which is the Arkham Asylum. And as long as he's there, he might as well make himself useful. Nightwing uses his nightline to break open the vent's covering. There's a camera right above them. It's a pan-tilt zoom camera swiveling side to side. Nightwing times the device. It takes 1 whole minute to do a full sweep. Batman has a minute to enter Arkham's office unseen. 2 men in the security wing are watching the cameras. One of them catches a glimpse of a shadow, perhaps a mistake. The area is empty. No activity. Ridiculous to even imagine someone breaking into the Arkham Asylum. It's a maze of death. Who would even dare? Nightwing sneaks into the office behind Batman and questions him about his plan. There were 5 murders in a single night, 2 incidents unrelated to each other, and the killing stroke is an exact replica of Zsasz's style. There was no way to be sure if Zsasz was indeed the killer, so Gordon and Batman came up with a plan. Batman is going to feign madness. The so-called dead lieutenant was also aware of the plan and played along. Nightwing expects him to do something crazy and risky like this. Batman had no other choice. He couldn't involve Jeremiah Arkham either because figures he might be helping Zsasz go in and out of the asylum, carry on with their search in Arkham's office. Anything that'll incriminate Victor Zsasz or Jeremiah Arkham. Batman's rustling through files and finds Everard Mallet's file. Something is interesting about it when Nightwing comes across Solly Hiram's file on the computer. It shuts him off and flashes an alert sign. An overprotected file may be of importance. Batman asks him to try to open it anyway. There may be some crucial information there. The duo are not the only ones who have seen the alert sign. If there's extra security for a file, when an intruder tries to pry it open, the owner will surely like to be informed about it, right? That's usually how these alert systems work. The computer in Jeremiah's room flashes the same sign, waking him up. Someone is trying to break into his work computer. He immediately calls upon his battalion of guards and sends them after the intruders. The two heroes stand in unison, their breath steady and their eyes sharp, ready to fight as Jeremiah approaches them with dozens of guards to rain upon them. But Batman screams at Nightwing to make a run for it. The first baton of guards lunges at them with their fists and batons. Batman moves like a force of nature, giving his partner an opening. Nightwing, with his agility, takes out a few guards and dunks one's head before making his way out into the air vent. Another set of guards is waiting at the other end of the vent to catch Nightwing, but to their misfortune, he makes an escape anyway. Batman is taken into holding again, this time in the punishment cells. He wonders if this play-crazy plan was worth it. If it's not Zsasz, then he's stuck inside a mental asylum while the real criminal is still walking the streets of Gotham. Arkham finds the Bat to be more of a threat than all the other criminals in his asylum combined. Sometimes he even has nightmares about him. A cheerful world where all the crimes have been washed away by joy and harmony. Where the Joker makes a real hearty joke and the Scarecrow sings a lullaby. Where the Killer Croc arm wrestles for charity and the ventriloquist puts on a show for the children. All is well in the heaven of Arkham until a shadow comes looming over them. It's the shadow of a bat. A large figure of doom and death. The Dark Knight. Mallet is sleeping still, wires attached to his head. Victor Zsasz enters his room with his scars and victories on display. He takes a pillow and puts it over Mallet's head, suffocating him to death. The next morning, Zsasz is taken back to his metal coffin as per schedule. On his way, he asks Jeremiah about the events that transpired the previous night. Jeremiah is a little surprised that Zsasz knows about it. He overheard it when the guards were gossiping about it. He only has help to offer. He suggests that Jeremiah should try to break Batman as a show of power. All the prisoners of Arkham have fought and lost against Batman, but if Arkham can break Batman, the unbeatable messenger of fear, vengeance himself, then he can break any man in the asylum, and he needs to make it a public demonstration. Zsasz keeps advising him about all this while cleaning up. He's collared like a dog, but right now he's guiding Jeremiah on a dark path. Jeremiah heeds his advice, and Zsasz suggests Amygdala. He'll be the perfect candidate. His plan is coming to fruition, and Arkham is doing exactly what Zsasz wants. You play avenging vigilante, Batman, and I'll make that the death of you. Oren Helsinger's amygdala was removed by a surgeon with the aspiration of controlling his violent emotions, but it only made it worse, making him more unstable. Amygdala is not intentionally evil, only a simple-minded brute whose erratic mind makes him a giant mass of uncontrollable rage. The guards enter Amygdala's cell with tasers. He starts acting out, punching every being in sight in a fit of rage. They use their tasers on him and carry him out in a wheelchair. Batman is escorted out of his punishment cell too. He's been summoned by Dr. Arkham. He comes across a dead body in the corridor while being taken by the guards. It's Everard Mallet, the man he wanted to question. There's definitely something going on inside the walls of Arkham. He suspects both Zsasz and Arkham. The guards throw him into an experiment room. A blinding light falls on Batman. Arkham's voice on the speaker. You have sinned, Batman. You've broken the rules of this establishment. It's necessary that you be taught a lesson. All the people he's captured and beaten, everyone he's put there. Tweedledee and Tweedledum, the Scarecrow, Two-Face, the Joker, and so many countless criminals watching him from behind a glass, waiting to relish in his painful defeat. They scream and cheer, excited to see him getting beaten up. Arkham's voice wants everyone to be patient and quiet. This is a scientific experiment and nothing more. He only wants to teach Batman some humiliation. He releases Amygdala on him. Helsinger comes screaming and charges at him. Batman knows this man doesn't have control over what he does. He empathizes with his pain. He's only a tool being used to torture Batman, and he doesn't want to hurt Helsinger. But there's no stopping Amygdala. He sees Batman as a threat, someone who's come to haunt him. He lunges at Batman with full force before Batman has a chance to deflect. He may understand Amygdala's plight, but he's not one to stay still and take a beating. He's a fierce fighter, after all. He's survived endless scars, and each time he's come out victorious on the other side. His physical wounds may have healed, but the pain remained, and he used that pain to transform himself, become more powerful. He tries to stop Amygdala, but he's unstoppable. Batman surges forward, a whirlwind of martial prowess, and delivers a crushing blow to Amygdala's head. He's won this round, only to piss off everyone even more. Arkham's experiment can't be a failure. Batman managed to defeat the mighty Amygdala. This has taught him nothing, and none of the prisoners are any less scared of him. He needs to be taught a proper lesson. Jeremiah Arkham opens the door to the room and releases an army of the criminally insane on Batman, a chance at revenge against vengeance himself. The Reckoning, Issue 4. Nightwing is at Gordon's residence, telling him about everything that went down at Arkham while he was there. Batman asked Dick to investigate Zolly Hiram, but before he got a chance, Hiram's body was found with a bullet wound in his head. Coincidence? Nightwing doesn't think so. Gordon thinks otherwise. This seems completely unrelated to Zsasz. The man was buried under large gambling debts. He probably took his own life, not being able to pay them. He was even holding a note he wrote to his wife, asking for forgiveness. Nightwing questions him about the second murder that happened the same night. It had the same MO as Zsasz's. There must be some connection, or Batman wouldn't have asked Dick to investigate Hiram. He's a calculated man. He wouldn't ask Dick to do something on a whim. But Gordon is losing hope in their whole plan. Maybe Batman was mistaken about Zsasz and got himself admitted to Arkham for no reason. Nightwing goes out the window, leaping into the night after he ensures Gordon that Batman is rarely wrong and he should wait a little more patiently. Gordon is concerned about Batman's safety inside Arkham. The man is surrounded by criminals he put in there. The air is thick with tension as Batman stands inside the therapy room, waiting for all his nemesis to attack him. The Joker's maniacal laughter fills the room with anguish as the most notorious criminals in Gotham approach Batman. Dr. Arkham intends to teach him a lesson that he'll never forget. More and more villains poured in, each more eager than the last to take a piece of the Dark Knight. They lunged at Batman all at once. The Riddler, Two-Face, Maxi Zeus, Joker, Tweedledum and Tweedledee, Poison Ivy, and so many more. Batman fights back, throwing punches in every direction. His fist connects with Two-Face's jaw, and his leg lands a kick on the Riddler. Punches land with a crushing force while the criminals claw, bite, and tear at him. Blood oozes and bones break, but not the Dark Knight's resolve. Batman's suit is raggedy by the time he's put down all but one. He saved the best for last. The room has become a battleground, strewn with his defeated foes. Only the Joker remains standing with a maniacal smile and fear in his eyes. As per his character, he tries to cut a deal with the Bat, but to no avail. Batman lands one final blow on his face. Batman stands injured and triumphant, his indomitable spirit shining through the darkness among the bloody chaos of his beaten enemies. Dr. Arkham has failed miserably. He wanted to break Batman, but he's only made a fool of himself. The villains were all mere embodiments of lunacy. They were nothing compared to the Bat's darkness. Batman has come out even stronger than before from the fight. Zsasz's advice turned out to be in poor taste. He goes back to see Zsasz, who's currently confined in his metal casket. Victor asks him about the fight that went down. He's curious and wants the details. Arkham tells him the fight was a foolish mistake, and he's holding Batman in the Special Punishment Unit now, just like Zsasz wished it to happen. Arkham will make his own decisions now. He'll not listen to anybody, especially Zsasz, who tries to mess with his head and make a reckless decision like that again. Zsasz pretends to be a little heartbroken. Their short-term alliance has already delivered what he needs. Zsasz thanks him before returning to his cell, leaving Arkham perplexed. Why did Zsasz thank him? Is there something more nefarious at play? Was this Zsasz's plan all along? That nutjob has played the Doctor like a fiddle. You humiliated me, Batman. You called me a maniac in front of my own patients, Arkham accuses. Batman was not exactly wrong to call him a maniac. The so-called Doctor did let all hell break loose on Batman, and that too after letting his mind get twisted by another psychopathic killer. He confesses to Batman that all that happened was Zsasz's idea. He was manipulated. That's rich, coming from a man who claims that he can see into the heart of madness. Batman suggests that maybe he should take a closer look in the mirror this time. Arkham is outraged to hear that. He runs a well-acclaimed asylum for the mentally weak and unstable. He'll know if there's any hint of insanity in him. If that had been the case, he wouldn't have rebuilt everything after demolishing his uncle's craze-ridden asylum. He's better. The situation is quite ironic. A psych doctor is trying to convince a man in a straitjacket, chained to the wall, that he, the Doctor, is not crazy. Batman goes further to push his buttons and asks him whether he's scared or not. Perhaps he's running this place because the heart of madness is the safest place to hide. Arkham leaves his holding cell more agitated than before. Batman wonders if all of this was a scheme hatched by Zsasz. If he knows that none of those lunatic fools are strong enough to take down Batman, at least not physically, then there must be more to it. Arkham put Batman in the Special Punishment Unit after the fight. Zsasz must have known that Arkham would do that. Batman is exactly where Zsasz wants him to be. Nightwing has broken into the late Zolly Hiram's residence. He couldn't inform Commissioner Gordon before doing so. He wouldn't condone illegal breaking and entering. He's already confirmed that Hiram's widow will be staying at a friend's place. Nightwing takes out a sharp-tipped cutter and scores the glass window before applying pressure to break it clean. Before entering, he disarms the security alert system by severing the wires. He somersaults, landing gracefully inside Hiram's office room. He searches drawers and cabinets, rustles through every paper, checks every nook and cranny of the room, but nothing. There's nothing that can be used to indict Victor Zsasz. There's nothing even connecting these two. Now, he's also questioning Batman's theory. Just then, he notices a book on the shelf that's out of place. Famous Lives is kept amongst books about architecture and houses. He takes the book out and finds the floor plan for Arkham Asylum hidden inside it. He rings Gordon and tells him that he's found incriminating evidence. Batman has been right all along. Zsasz has been their killer all along. He took Zolly Hiram's help and used his tunnel to get in and out of the asylum. He asks Gordon to meet him at the asylum. Victor Zsasz gets up from his bed. He was waiting for nightfall. He kneels near the corner wall and opens the secret hatch to Hiram's tunnel. He could have escaped the first night he bribed Hiram and got information about the escape route, but he had to be sure. Hiram was greedy and a gambler. Could have sold his secret to many more inmates. Zsasz needed to be sure that no one found out about it. But now that he's taken care of Hiram permanently, he can also leave this nut house permanently. He wears his magician outfit that's stacked inside the passage, takes his precious knives, and crawls out. But there's one last thing to do before he leaves. He wants to leave Batman a message, mocking him as he makes his escape. He bangs on a pipe that connects to Batman's punishment cell. He will hear the message. When Arkham caught Batman and Nightwing, he thought Nightwing helped him escape. He had no idea that Batman was carrying a lockpick in his mouth. He never asked the guards to check if he had anything on him. Batman still has that lockpick. He removes the straitjacket and unlocks himself from the iron chains binding him. He hears a distant tapping on a metal pipe. It's Morse code. Punisher. Punished. Innocent will die. Ha ha ha. It must be Zsasz. He conspired to put Batman in this special holding cell for a reason. He didn't want any interference during his escape, but he had to leave Batman one last message, mocking him. His door isn't locked in a traditional style. There are microwave motion detectors everywhere. Suppose they didn't need to install regular locks. If he just makes a run for it, the alarms will go off immediately, and the corridors will be swarming with Arkham's guards before he can see the light of day. Batman tears his cape before going out. His cape's lining is woven from ultrafine aluminium thread. If he wraps the cape around himself and crawls very slowly, then the aluminium will deflect the microwaves from the motion detectors. The only problem will be the intense heat, which is harsh enough to fry him. Any ordinary human would faint from the excruciating pain. Batman has the endurance of a bristlecone pine. He drags his exhausted body along the never-ending corridor. Every inch of his skin feels charred, like he's being burned alive. But he's relentless. He keeps crawling. A little bit more, just a few inches more. He's so close. He rolls, tired, on the floor, wishing for some cool air, but he's running out of time. He leaves the cape behind, picks himself up, and starts walking. Zsasz is kept in the secure wing, but Batman can't get past the security guards there. He needs to find a different route. Everard Mallet's cell. He'll be useful after all. He enters Mallet's cell, recalling what he read in his file. Mallet used to dream about a hero appearing in the dead of night to offer him freedom, but he died of a so-called heart attack before Batman got a chance to question him. Must have been Zsasz. It sure sounded like him. Then there must be a secret door out of here for which Zsasz needed to take care of Mallet. Batman starts examining the walls. He taps every inch and listens carefully until he hears a hollow sound. He's found it. He kicks open the hatch, and there it is, the opening to the secret tunnel. Commissioner Gordon received Nightwing's message. The police have arrived at Arkham Asylum. Gordon has come with multiple armed officers. They're going to put an end to this episode from hell now. Dr. Arkham is visibly annoyed at being disturbed in the middle of the night by a barrage of officers pushing their way in. Gordon tells him that this is a murder investigation and he has a warrant to search the properties. He shows it to Arkham as he passes by him. Gordon orders the man at the reception to show a few officers the way to Batman's cell and instruct Arkham to take the rest of them to Zsasz's cell. Arkham is reluctant to do anything, but American police don't shy away from using brute force. One look from Gordon and Arkham leads them to Zsasz. When Arkham opens the door to his cell, he's left dumbfounded. It's empty. Not a living thing in sight inside the cell. He'd put months of energy into making Arkham escape free. Nothing ever gets past the guards and security cameras. He even got the latest technology to be extra careful. So, how did this happen? A uniform comes running in and informs Gordon that Batman is also missing, but they found a secret door to a tunnel in another cell. After hearing that, Arkham is left petrified. They all gather near the secret entrance, guns pointing, waiting for three unidentified figures to come out. Victor is too close to freedom. In an old sewer under the city, he looks around with his flashlight. The mortar looks easily breakable. It's old, and if it's hit hard enough, it'll loosen and collapse the entire passageway. He's striking at it with his knife while thinking about Batman. That vigilante is anything but stupid. He managed to capture him and was clever enough to know that all the copycat murders were his doing. Batman's battery runs on his hero complex. He feels the urge to salvage Gotham and its citizens, and that keeps him running with a false sense of justice. But after all that beating, he'll take time to recover. There's a sense of satisfaction in knowing that his captor is being held inside the asylum while he's about to break free. Although Batman is smart enough to figure out a way to escape soon enough. He's still trying to break the mortar when a torch's light blinds him. Nightwing asks from behind, "Mr. Zsasz, I presume?" Nightwing asks him to put down his weapon and surrender, but he'll not let another man in a tight suit disrupt his path to freedom. Zsasz challenges him to try and take him out. Nightwing leaps at him, but Zsasz deflects and collapses the wall around them on him. The first kill before his newfound independence will be that of a superhero. Awesome. Nightwing is buried under heaps of bricks. His leg is stuck and he's unable to get out. He can't defend himself. He's gonna die here. Zsasz raises his knife to plunge it into Nightwing's heart when Batman rushes in from behind. He tackles Zsasz to the ground and his knife falls into the filthy water around them. He's determined to put an end to this. He launches his fists at Zsasz. Blood spills out of his mouth as he lands in the sewage water. Zsasz is a formidable fighter too. Face down on the ground, he throws a quick kick to Batman's face. The two are at each other's throats. Zsasz has another knife hidden. He would have been quite satisfied knowing that Batman was getting tortured in Arkham and slowly withering away, but he can enjoy killing him now, too. Two superheroes in one night. Must be a record. He takes out his second knife to attack Batman, but not before Nightwing warns him that Zsasz has another weapon. Batman moves away enough that the knife isn't plunged right into him, but Zsasz still manages to leave a very deep cut on his chest. Blood gushes out of his wound as he uses his full strength to knock out Zsasz. A few teeth fly out of his mouth as he receives Batman's winning blow. Batman and Nightwing drag Zsasz back to the secret door in Mallet's cell. A platoon of uniforms is waiting near the entrance with Gordon and Jeremiah Arkham, all with their guns ready. They're not sure who's coming at them. "Come out with your hands high," Commissioner Gordon orders, and Batman replies with smugness in his voice, "Will you settle for plain out?" He brings out Victor Zsasz with him, hands bound behind his back, and hands him over to the police. Gordon immediately orders one of his subordinates to call for an ambulance after taking a look at Batman's open wound. But Arkham is worried about something else. The police may take Zsasz into custody, but not Batman. He's a patient and has a right over his inmates. He screams at his orderlies to take Batman back to his cell. Batman and Gordon scoff at his ridiculousness. Gordon explains everything to Jeremiah. His mind is in shambles. It can't be. He knows everything that goes on in his asylum. How could he not know about Zsasz's secret escape route that his builder was responsible for? How did he not notice that Batman was in the asylum at will and was constantly planning and investigating behind his back? His dogma tells him otherwise. He refuses to believe it. Arkham has it in writing that Batman is crazy, and he'll not let him out until he cures him, until he's convinced that Batman is cured. Batman holds him by the back of his neck and questions him. "You want madness, Arkham?" Jeremiah's obsession with madness will not let him see reason. "Look into his eyes." He forces Jeremiah's face close to Zsasz. The criminal still has a demented grin on his face. "That is madness," screams Batman. He warns Arkham to be very careful from now on. Batman has witnessed enough to judge Arkham in his time at the asylum. It doesn't matter if he's been corrupted by Zsasz or has always been like this, but if he makes even the slightest mistake, even a minor wrong turn, Batman will be watching him. Batman, Nightwing, Commissioner Gordon, and all the other officers leave with Victor Zsasz. Jeremiah is left standing alone in the room, all alone with his thoughts and Batman's warning. Nightwing and Batman ride in Gordon's car. He tells them about the information he extracted from Zolly Hiram's residence. The man was under huge gambling debts, so he built a few underground canals connecting to the sewer system, accessible from only a few cells to use them as a source of bribes. Some extra cash in exchange for a small secret. Cash was flowing, and his plan was working until he sold his secret to Zsasz, who wanted no loose ends. Now, Hiram is dead, and Zsasz has been arrested. All seems brighter in Gotham. The rampant serial killer has been caught, and there's finally some peace in the city after many days. But in Arkham Asylum, Jeremiah Arkham is confined alone with voices in his head. The first time he changed was when he put a deranged gunman down by using only his words. The second time was when he got puppeteered by the madman, Zsasz. Everything happened right under his nose, even after all the work he put in to build the asylum into a new and better image. Now, his nightmares are haunted by Victor Zsasz's soul and thoughts about his uncle. He wonders how long it took for his uncle to lose all sense of reality and how it all began. Not burning his journal would have been a wise decision, but now all he can study is himself. Batman told him once that maybe he should take a closer look at himself. Sometimes he catches his own reflection in the mirror. He ponders if the eyes staring back at him are still his own. The Last Arkham saga has a charming way of blending humor with dark themes, which is a hallmark of DC Comics. Against the backdrop of a chilling atmosphere and the menacing prisoners of Arkham Asylum, the comic masterfully explores the psyche of Batman and the prisoners. Whenever a joke or a jab comes in, it doesn't feel out of place. It finds moments of sardonic humor among all the dark corners of Arkham. The depth of characters is also maintained among the chaos and action sequences. The investigative thrill is also something that draws the reader's attention immediately. The artwork is very detailed, capturing all the nuances of an eerie environment. Even the fights are very meticulously crafted in the comic. A gripping tale of deception and survival, where we witness Batman in psychological warfare with the main villain and the new head of Arkham Asylum. This story can be a good prelude to a bigger film, but I think it'd do better as a two-part episode of a DC EU series because the storyline is too tight and short for a movie.